This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
On in our study about Jacob, how Jacob was caught in the darkness on the side of the river thinking that his brother was coming to kill him. And he wrestles with God at that point. He moves his family on beyond the river. He's there by himself. And he wrestles with God, and he comes to a decision with God and recognizes that his life has to change. And the Bible says that once he settled that, the next day the sun rose and Jacob moved past the altar. He built an altar and he moved past it. The Bible teaches this principle over and over and over again, that we need to move past our past. We need to build those altars and move on beyond what so overwhelmed us in the past. It may be that one of the biggest things that holds you back from moving past those issues and problems is that you just simply are holding on to it. You own the past and you just won't let it go. And I understand that in some cases. There were things in your past that were important to you, events that meant something. They were milestones, things that happened that were life-altering, memories. How do you get past that? I knew an older man who was very, very bitter. Every time I spoke with him, there was just this bitterness about him. It seemed like he had this sour attitude about everything, and his adult life was pretty normal, but his youth had been extremely hard. He had been abandoned by his mother. He had grown up in an orphanage, and when he got out of the orphanage, he was out on his own. He got into a job, and he worked very hard, and then came the Great Depression, and he lost everything, including his job, and he almost starved to death. And it seemed that every time I spoke with him, the conversation always turned to his past. And one day he made a most curious statement. He said, "I love my past." And I thought, are you nuts? All of the bad that went on in your life, and you love your past? Some of us love our past. We can't let go of it. And if it was sad, we want to embrace it because we don't want to forget it. If it was good, we want to embrace it because we don't want to forget it. But we're stuck on past. If your past was not a good thing, you're probably dealing with some consequences of it. And if you let it continue to shape you, it will continue to shape and affect you to become more of what you are now. Think about that. If you're holding on to your past and you're not letting go of the past is continuing to shape you into more of what you are now. And if you're somewhat bitter now, if you don't let go of the past, you're going to be even more bitter. Whether the past was a good memory or a bad memory, it's essentially used life. You realize that? Your past, whether it was a good time or a bad time, whether it's a good memory or a bad memory, your past is used life. In either case, it's time to reach for some fresh, unused life. 1 Peter 4, verses 1 through 3 says it this way: "Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourselves also with the same attitude, because he who has suffered in his body is done with sin. As a result, he does not live the rest of his earthly life for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. For you have spent enough time in the past." Did you get that? One who chooses to live in the will of God lets go of the past. One who chooses to live within the will of God lets go of the past.
Here am I.